No, we've got it. It's working, but thank you.
So 4 years ago, I actually started community college. I actually went to San Bernardino Valley College, and I definitely wish that I would have had somebody to tell me little tips on how to transition from high school to college, like what classes to take, what classes not to take, how to have relationship with my professors, and so on. But unfortunately, I didn't have that, but still, I got through it. Luckily, now my sister, she has me to guide her, and she has me to tell her what not to do and what to do, and hopefully after this presentation, we'll both have helped guide you guys, and hopefully you'll feel more comfortable with that transition. And I'm actually a senior right now at Cal State Northridge, majoring in journalism public relations.
And this is Vanessa. I'm Zach.
Hi, Zach.
And I'm a senior in English subject matter, so I'll probably be going into teaching myself. So I'll be in my mom's position, hopefully, within a few years. So we'll be covering a couple main points today. We'll be talking about how to manage your schedule in order to be ready for classes during the semester. We're going to talk about building relationships with the faculty and your peers, the fellow students, and we're going to talk to you about some good study habits, note-taking skills, all that jazz. So, without further ado, let's go on to planning your schedule. Basically, when you go into college, I would recommend that the first thing that you do is get finished with your general education requirements. These are basically the core requirements that are asked for any degree that you pick for your undergraduate degree. They consist of your basic skills, which are 12 units, natural sciences, which are 8 units, arts and humanities, which are 6 units, social sciences, which are 6 units, your lifelong learning requirement, which is 3 units, your comparative cultural studies, gender, race, class, ethnicity studies, and foreign language, which is 6 units, and the U.S. History and Government Title V, which is another 6 units. Now, you may be wondering what units are. Units are, dependent on the class you take, usually about 3 units per class. So, for instance, when I said 12 units, that is 4 classes. So, but there are some classes, labs and so forth, which may count for only 2 units, or even 1 unit, which is why you have the 8 unit in the natural sciences. Natural science classes, and generally science classes, have a lot of labs to go with them as well. So, in total, for that general education requirement, you're going to have 48 units, and depending on what the classes are, the units will be divvied up in that sense. This is the degree progress report at CSUN. Now that must look pretty intimidating, right? Well, let me explain it a little bit. This is at CSUN. Other college campuses will probably have something, if not exactly like this. Basically, those unit things I talked about, they're divided into different sections. Like, let's say this is your natural sciences section right here. It'll say at the top how many units you need. Like, if you need 6 units, it'll say it up there. Or, in fact, yes, you need 8 units for natural sciences. It'll say whether you've completed it with a little thing that says OK over here. If you haven't, it'll say no, pretty straightforward, and it'll list the classes you can take to satisfy it. I can't quite remember if it's at the top or the bottom, but it will list it there, either at the top or the bottom, which classes you can take to satisfy the requirement. And those classes generally will say the unit amount that they count for. So it'll say like 8 units, and it'll say this class counts for 2, these classes count for 3, so on and so forth. It's a choice of classes. You don't necessarily have to take them all, but you do have to pick which ones you want to take. Now, if this degree progress report is a little too overwhelming, which I can imagine it could be, you could also look at something like this. Now, they probably have something like this at the college you're going to regardless. This is CSUN's My Academic Planner, which gives you graphics and things to show how close you are to finishing your degree. It also helps you plan your schedule. It helps you look at the various classes in a way that's more consolidated. It's basically an interactive degree progress report that may or may not be I know I use a degree progress report, but I'm also weird, easier to understand. But
So I'm sure after hearing Zach talk, you guys feel a little bit lost and confused. But don't worry. Actually, at college, you do have counselors to help plan your classes. But from my experience, you should not rely on them 100%. They're humans and they make mistakes. For example, me, I was supposed to graduate on June in 2000, I believe 8, and I actually was held back an extra semester because the counselor had missed 2 important classes that I needed to take. So unfortunately, I had to wait a whole year and not walk with my friends. So you can use the counselors for your advantage, but just remember that you are now an adult and need to make sure that you are on track.
double check.
And so I'm going to begin talking now about your relationships with your peers and professors, specifically professors, and then Zach will go on to peers. The first thing I want to point out is that unlike high school, these classes in college can be up to 100 and sometimes even more students.
That's 4 times the amount of people in here right now. Just imagine that.
Yeah, so you definitely want to have a good relationship with your professor because then you're going to be able to meet them outside of their office hours and also be able to contact them, whether it be through email or phone. The second thing is that you want to have a good relationship with them because they're the ones that are going to write you letter recommendations, whether it be for a scholarship or whether it be for graduate school. I actually, in community college, I applied for a scholarship and I had to have one of my professors give me a letter of recommendation, and luckily I did get that scholarship. So you need to have that good relationship with them. And the last reason is because these professors, if you have a good relationship with them, they are the ones that are going to get you internships and jobs. So once they know about something, they're going to turn to their students first. For example, my internship right now that I have, I'm interning with Kirks and Castles, and I actually found that out with one of my professors that helped referred me.
What's Kirks and Castles?
It's a clothing company. So yeah.
What also is important besides just your professors are also the people sitting around you, your fellow students. Because if you're absent, well, you can't get what you missed necessarily from your professor like you would a teacher. Professors, aren't quite going to hold your hand as much as teachers will in high school. If you miss a class, you miss the class. You have to get the notes from someone else. You have to get the assignments from someone else. If there was an assignment due, usually professors won't say, oh, just turn it in the next day. You have to find a way to get it to them. Either work it out through email or actually go to their office and leave it in their mailbox. If you miss a class, you are responsible for getting the assignments in there due on that day. And you are responsible for getting the notes on that day. And furthermore, with peers, something that you're going to want to establish are study groups. I know myself, I just had midterms and they're not quite done, unfortunately, but I have midterms right now. I recently had a midterm for something called literary theory, which is studying things like Plato, Aristotle, people's names that you probably haven't heard of, like Chladni, Sidney, all these different theorists, stuff that I probably would know nothing about without the book. So, I had this test, and I'm pretty sure I got about maybe a B or an A on it, but there's no doubt in my mind I would not have passed it if I did not go to the study sessions. I had 2 study sessions, one of which wasn't as useful, but the next one, which I had on the Sunday before the test, went from about 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and that really prepared me. And because I met with someone else and went over the material, I was able to do well on that test. So, relationships with peers are as essential as with professors. And on that note, let's go to notes.
Alright, so I want to read you a quote that is from Carol Rodswick. It's an article that I found on sweet101.com called How to Take Good Notes in College to Improve Study Skills. And this quote says, according to Stephen E. Lucas, author of the RF Public Speaking Studies, have demonstrated that on average most people grasp only 50% of what they hear and after 2 days can recall only 25% of that. and these percentages hold true regardless of the situation or circumstances. So, especially with this quote, you cannot rely on just listening. You have to take effective notes and you have to find which way learns for you so you can learn best. So there's a couple things that you can do for this to happen. One thing is that you have to pay attention really closely to your professor, to not only to their words but also to their nonverbal communication. You also have to learn their style because sometimes professors can be a little bit more dull, a little bit more lively, or they can be more PowerPoint based, and others can be more lecture based, and you just have to be able to adapt to that. And then you also have to learn your learning style. There's 3 learning styles, which are visual, kinesthetic, and auditory, and Zach will tell you more about those.
Yeah. A good thing to look into is how you think you learn. Now, just a brief thing on going over what each of these things are. Now, the first one I have listed up there is auditory. Now, anyone have a suggestion as to what that might be? No? Yes, what do you think? Yeah. Yeah, auditory is your main clue there. Auditory is hearing. You learn directions either by having them read to you, by listening to what the person is saying, watching their body language as they say it. You learn through verbal instruction if you are an auditory learner. If you're a visual learner, this should be pretty straightforward. You learn through what you see. Notes on the board, charts, graphs, that kind of thing. And if you're kinesthetic, now, anybody have any idea with that? What if I say kinesiology? Would that help you? Or hands-on. Hands-on kinesthetic. Basically, you learn through action. You learn through actually doing activities of what you're learning. Like, this would be a lab activity, or maybe an essay. You learn through applying what you're learning to a specific activity. You learn through doing it yourself, not just listening and not just watching. But then again, no one necessarily just learns with one of these styles. Chances are you encompass a little bit of each, if not even something else in there that hasn't been discovered. Learning styles are much more fluid than just these simple categories. You may want to look into these other ways of taking in information and seeing if you can get stuff in a new light. So yes, it is not just necessarily one learning style. Now, on that note, we're going to go into the different types of note-taking that you can do.
Okay, so basically, like you said, there's not one method that you have to stick with. So with these note-taking formulas, these are the 3 main ones that are out there, but you don't have to stick to it. You can combine, or you can even have your own. But I'm just going to show you these so you have some idea, something to use when taking notes.
Okay.
So basically, the first one is this one over here, and this is the Cornell taking method, and Cornell note-taking method, and this is best for visual people. Basically, what you do is you put the main idea at the top, and then you put key terms, names, and questions on the left column, and then on the right, you would match it with the definitions, summaries, and answers that relate to the left. So if you're visual, the point of this one is that when you're taking the test, you'll remember the placement of everything, and hopefully that will help you. The second one is the diagram format, which is up here. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, but this one is actually the best for visual and hands-on people. So basically, you put the subject or concept at the top, and then you divide the page evenly into equal sections. And the last one is the outline format, and this one is not for any specific style, so anybody can use this one. And the good thing about this one is that it saves time because it's super organized, and this one is for anyone that likes to focus on details when taking notes. Okay. So now that we've given you how to take notes and different styles that you can be, here's just a few more good study habits that we've learned from experience. The first thing that you want to do is definitely skim the syllabus before you start any class, just so you know how to plan your time, how far in advance you need to do the readings, how many homeworks you're going to have, how many tests you're going to have. Because in college, it's not like high school. Most grades are solely based on the midterm and the final, which has the most heavy weight. So you definitely want to check out the syllabus, not only before but also throughout the semester to remain informed. The second thing is that you want to buy your textbooks early so you don't fall behind in the reading, because that will hurt you. And the next thing is that you want to read the material before class so that if you have any misunderstandings, you can bring it up to the teacher and then get a better idea of it. The next thing is to relate the reading to the teacher's notes. The teachers are never going to lecture from the book because you're already responsible for that. So you want to figure out how you can relate both for a better understanding. And another thing is that if a teacher repeats it more than twice, it will probably most likely be on the test. Another thing is to make time to study. When you're in college, it's really hard. There's parties, there's everything distracting you, but you have to make the time to study in order to pass. And one thing that I suggest is going to the library because you have to separate yourself from all the distractions. I know with me, when I'm at home, I want to start cleaning or I want to get on the computer and go on Facebook. But
Or
if you,
Instagram.
yeah, but if you go to the library, it helps you just focus on what you need to do.
So, let's recap a couple of the things we went over today. We talked about how to create and manage your schedule, how you are taking much more responsibility for yourself in college, how you were going to have to plan your own thing, going to counselors if you need help, and making sure you're making sure about the counselors, watching their back as they're watching yours, in a sense. We also talked about how to maintain and build relationships, how to network with your fellow students and teachers, which is almost as, if not as important as the studies yourself. It'll prepare you for the workplace later on, and it will basically make your time in college easier. And we also talked about some techniques you can use for note-taking, looking into your style of learning, and developing some better study habits to be prepared for those big tests, which are all-encompassing and determine your grade in the class. So, with that being said, I'd like to open up the floor to any questions. Or do we have anything else?
So basically, I hope that, like my little sister, we've both been able to guide you and make you feel more comfortable making the transition from high school to college. And
Yeah, so, any questions, guys? Yeah,
Are the books from college are they expensive?
very. And yeah, you do have to buy them. Well, it also varies depending on the major, right?
yeah, I mean, it's expensive, but honestly, like if you go to Amazon.com or other websites like that, like you can definitely find it for like more than half off.
If you go to the bookstore, it can run up to like, at most, I've had semesters run up to $500 just for books. That's not including tuition, which right now is $7,500, $7,500 for the year. But if you get it on Amazon or another website, it is much cheaper.
But like I said, if you buy it online, you want to give yourself time so you do have the book before class starts.
Can't you also rent books, buy used books, send your books back, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so if you buy them online, they're usually used, that's why they're cheap. And a lot of schools offer renting programs, which is also more than half off.
Yeah, but make sure you get it turned in. Otherwise, you're paying more than you would pay if you just bought the book.
Any other questions?
Usually people change their majors as they go in college, so how does that work out with the classes that you've previously taken?
Well, I mean, if
I just changed. Want me to take this? I just changed my major a little bit ago. And in fact, I just was looking over the stuff. I just was meeting with advisors. I was an anthropology major, which, for all intents and purposes, let's just say it's kind of like history, social studies mixed. It's the study of people. And then I switched to English. These two majors have almost nothing in common in terms of unit requirements and counting towards each other. Luckily, I had done my general education requirements earlier on, so I had at least that much going for me. But basically, I had almost nothing transfer over. I had to calculate my units, so I wouldn't go over what is called the unit limit in order to change my major. The unit limit at CSUN was 140 units, and they won't let you change it if you're over that. I don't know what punishments they have. They may take away financial aid or something. Luckily, I didn't have that problem. I actually am at like 136, so I really got close to that mark. But basically what I did is I found out that I qualified for an anthropology minor, and that is what I can do. I took my anthropology classes, and now I'm going to have a minor on my degree in addition to the major.
So are you a fifth-year senior?
Yeah, I am definitely a fifth-year senior. So basically, that little change probably set me back about a year.
And also to add what he's saying, there's some people that they jump into a 4-year and they go straight to thinking what they want to do. And even though that's okay, I suggest focusing first on your general ed. That way, 2 years later, when you have your general ed, you'll have a better knowing of what you want to study, and you have a lower chance of having that switched.
Did you switch your major?
Yes, I did. I started off as business, and then I went into journalism.
How much unit transfer was there?
Well, luckily for me, it wasn't a big problem.
Did you change earlier?
I changed like right on time after my AA.
Are you both going to graduate this coming next semester?
I graduate this December.
This December?
I'm graduating next semester in spring, hopefully, if I can get all the classes I need. That's another thing. We didn't go over that, getting your classes. You may not necessarily get the classes that you need because it's very impacted right now. And if that's the case, you kind of just have to deal with it. And
Can you explain the process of getting classes? How do you do that?
So getting classes basically, a lot of it is based on your priority. With the people with the most units have more priority than those with fewer.
you do it online.
Yeah, everything's online. And other than that, if you don't get the priority, you have the chance to go into a class on the first day and sign up for a wait list, and hopefully that you'll get in. Right now it's really, really tough with all the cuts, but that's another way that you can do it if you don't have priority.
Well, CSUN actually has created a new policy for waitlisting too. They have a waitlisting program, which I found out about because I got disenrolled, long story. Basically, the waitlisting program is something where you can actually sign up for a waitlist online through the same thing that you sign up for with classes, which is also located through the general hub called the portal, which is something you sign into. You get a username and a password at the very beginning. Anything else?
What's the latest class you have?
The latest
Yeah.
It's like 7 to 9:45.
in the evening for her.
And how often do classes meet?
There's classes that meet every day, like the ones that are an hour or 50 minutes meet every day,
Not every day, do
like Monday through Thursday.
they? Really? I didn't
Yeah.
even know about those. Okay.
And then there's
I only know about the ones that meet like twice a week or something. Oh,
and then there's also classes that meet once a week. Like I have a Friday class from 11 to 1:45, and that one is just once a week.
Yeah, and then there are the classes which meet twice a week, either on Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday. Usually they're like an hour and 15 minutes long.
So what's the longest class? You're sitting there for how long?
2 hours and 45 minutes.
2 hours and 45 minutes?
Those are the ones that meet once a week.
Do you get a stretch break or something?
Usually,
If the teacher's nice.
the teacher, no, they have to. They either give you like a 10-15 minute break and half, or some of them will let you go early.
And there are also Saturday classes. I'm taking one right now. It meets for 2 hours and 45 minutes every Saturday starting at 9 a.m.
Are they strict on the bathroom passes?
There are no bathroom passes. You're an adult at this point, and there are no hall passes. You can ask to go to the restroom, and they will let you go. And I mean, the thing is you could not show up for class, and no one will pursue you. It'll just reflect in your grade. If you don't show up for class, you will probably fail the class. The professor will never contact you. They'll assume you maybe dropped it.
Well, do they take roll?
Depends on the professor.
How do they take roll?
Some
If
of,
they take roll,
some of them take roll like you did, calling names in the morning,
right?
and then some of them will have like daily activities that you need to turn in, and then they'll roll like that. Or I have professors that also don't take roll.
And some of them do a sign-in sheet too.
Yeah, because when you have like 100 students,
You're not going to call every
yeah.
day.
When I visited UC Santa Barbara, the students had clickers. Do they have anything like that at CSUN where you actually click in when you take your seat?
We are on a budget. We don't have
Well,
that.
not only that, we're a much smaller school, so we don't have that per se, the clickers.
You don't have classes with 800 students in a hall.
Not-
800?
not
No, not
Well,
800.
that's typical at UCLA
Yeah.
and UCSB.
Oh, did they have anything for your stats class, like a calculator thing that you had to, like, with the, okay, because sometimes they have that for classes too. I don't know anything about it though. I thought you said you did, that was someone else. Okay.
So when you show up to take a test in a class, does the teacher give you the materials to take the test, or do you have to bring in your own Scantrons, your own essay booklets?
Yeah, that's right. When you take a test, you do have to bring in your own stuff. You know how teachers will pass out a Scantron to you here, right? You have to buy a Scantron usually at the student store on campus. At CSUN, it's located in this almost like a little mini mall structure with like little food court things. It's like a food court in the student store. But you have to buy your own Scantrons. If it's an essay test, you have to buy your own blue book, which is if the teacher asks for it. They could also just ask for loose leaf paper. But you have to buy your own blue book, which is a little bound thing with paper in it, which is another testing supply you would have to buy. Generally, if you don't buy your supplies, you either run to the store after class has started and try not to be too late for the test, or you hope someone else brought extras.
And what about when you're writing papers? Are you submitting them online? Are you bringing them to the class? And what about taking tests? Are tests always done in the class, or do you take tests online? How does that work?
Well, it just depends. Like at our school, we have a system that is called Moodle, and you can go on there. Not all professors use it, but some of them do. And basically, they post assignments. The syllabus is up there. Your grades are up there, and you can also submit papers up there. But generally, most professors want it in person. And then as for the what was it?
Tests.
Tests. What was it though?
Do you take tests online?
I've had a couple online tests, and this semester I actually have some take-home tests too, where they say, write about this. It's basically almost like a research paper that they're asking for. Oh yeah, and research papers are going to be fun. But also as far as tests go, yeah, I've had some online tests too.
And usually when they're take-home tests, you're excited. You think like, oh yeah, I get to take this home. But
They're
those
not
are
easier.
the hardest ones.
Yeah, they expect so much more of you with a take-home test.
Is it absolutely necessary to have a laptop at college?
I mean, I think for your assignments, it is. I mean, I don't like to take mine in, but I don't know what I would do with that one for assignments. It's just easier to check up on emails for classes and also do assignments.
I hate to say it, but I would be lost without my laptop. It is almost a necessity. I mean, you can use the computers at the library, but that means you have to hope that there's space open and there aren't too many people at the computer lab. The connection's slow, the computers themselves are slow. So yeah, laptops are lifesavers. They're really useful. Even like the little $300 notebooks, netbooks. I have one of those in here in case we couldn't get this to work. Those are even sometimes better than the computers you can use on campus. They have upgraded them recently, but even then they're slow.
So you've both been at CSUN, this is your 5th year. How many years have you been at CSUN?
This will be like my second year.
So, well, then Zachary, or I don't know, Vanessa, in the years you've been there, have you seen the effect of budget cuts? Have you seen services decrease or classes get larger, or have you seen any problems related to that? Because there might be more budget cuts coming up.
I mean, I think for me, it didn't really. I mean, it hurt me like as for paying for my classes, but like I've seen it with my
Why?
other
Because tuition went up?
tuition went up. It goes up every time.
It's been going up by a percentage every year. I remember when I started, it was probably about $5,000. Now it's $7,500. It's gone up $2,500 in 5 years.
And I know, like with my friends, like they if you don't have priority, it's really, really hard, and I see them struggle with that. You know, they're supposed to graduate with me, and now they're gonna graduate in 2 years because of these cuts.
And of course, the longer it takes to graduate, the more money you end up spending.
Exactly.
Or if you're doing loans, the more debt you accrue.
And you say you work, right?
Yes.
And how do you balance work, social life, family, school? That must be difficult.
Yeah, well, I actually work. I have 2 internships, and I'm a full-time student. So it's really, really, really tough. But you just have to make time to study. That's the number one thing. If I didn't make time to study, then I would not be graduating this semester for sure.
Yeah. You have to make your own schedule and have a lot more self-discipline than you do in high school.
Yes.
As incoming freshmen, do you advise to like stay out of like there's a lot of clubs and organizations in college. Do you advise to stay out of them for your first year or?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that they're great ways to network with people and, like we said, have good relationships with your peers. You always want to think about relationships because they're going to help you not only in college but after college as well. You just want to make sure that you separate, like, the partying and stuff. Like, you can do it, but just make time for studying.
Yeah, and not all clubs are necessarily partying. I mean, no, we are not suggesting that you don't go in clubs. Not at all. Clubs can be very, very beneficial. I mean, they help you experience new things, meet new people. College is going to be so much bigger. You're going to meet so many more people, and you're going to have a much bigger populace to find people who are similar to you and different from you.
Well, and you end up creating networks.
Yeah.
And like Vanessa said, that can help you once you graduate too. You never know when somebody's going to have a lead on a job or be able to recommend you for something.
Hey, you know that the president of Anime Club may be a CEO of a major company. You never know.
Is it better to live on campus or?
I mean, personally, I've never lived on campus, so I can't really answer that fairly. But I think that if you lived on campus, you would be more like focused because you'd have, I don't know. things like that.
I don't live on campus. I have a lot of friends who do. From what I've seen, it's a lot easier on campus. This is all I can speak to do like study group sessions and meet other people because you live in the dorms, which are just north of campus. As far as how much easier it is to study, I really can't speak to that because I commute. Dorms are a whole nother thing. You have to pay for that too. That's an added price tag.
CSUN tends to be more of a commuter type campus.
It does. But there are people who are living on campus. Oh yeah, and yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
There are summer classes that people when people start early or I don't know how it works, but well, how does summer classes, how do they work?
Summer classes are really hard to get into and they're super expensive. So if you can avoid it, you should. You can also as freshmen in college, there's classes that like if you go straight to a 4-year, there's classes that you can take at community colleges that will transfer. That way it's cheaper and it'll also it'll save you time and it's so expensive in summer.
Yeah, those classes
So
are
Vanessa,
also.
are you suggesting that you can be enrolled in 2 colleges at the same time? Concurrent enrollment?
Yes.
So you could be taking some of your general ed classes, say at Valley or Pierce or Mission, and then also be going to CSUN.
Yeah, to save money.
Have
You
you done that?
I've done that. You just want to definitely always make sure that it's going to transfer so you don't waste your time. Like, I took some of my basic journalism classes at Valley over here, and they were able to transfer, so I saved time that way.
And money.
Mm-hmm.
How many classes do you take per semester and how many hours of studying does each class require?
Well, typically everybody takes at least three is full time, right?
4 is full time, but not everybody at least takes 3. Actually, no, full time is 12 units.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily the number of classes.
So it's either like you want to be taking 3 or 4. I say 4 especially if you want to get on time. And then each class you're supposed to dedicate 2 hours of studying.
But in reality, it does vary. If we're gonna speak practically,
Do
But-
neither of you recommend taking the 1-unit PE classes? Are they worth it?
Honestly, they don't count in what I've seen. That's why we're saying like not only rely on the counselors, but you have to see what classes count, because I know that I took a bunch of elective classes that I just wasted my time. They didn't count towards anything.
I took a lot of one-unit PE classes, and they were fun, they were relaxing, but as Vanessa said here, they don't count for much. If anything, they make you have more units so that if you have to change your major, you're closer to that unit limit. So take PE classes with care and trepidation. Beware of them. Be wary. Make sure you can actually have the space to take those PE classes before you sign up for them.
So I didn't get the point when you said that you were in Valley and season at the same time. How did
Yeah, so basically, like, if it's not upper division, you can take it at a community college and have it transfer. So I took my journalism 100 class at Valley. So I had like 4 classes at CSUN going on, and then I had that 1 class at Valley. So in the time next semester, I didn't have to waste 1 semester. Because a class at CSUN, like the upper division ones, they have prerequisites. So you have to take like a certain class to go on to the next class. And if you don't have that class, you can't get in. So that's like a whole semester that you're going to waste if you don't have that class.
Yeah, and
So you're taking it at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and as far as scheduling goes, I forgot to mention this. You are planning your own schedule in every sense, including the time. For instance, today I have a class from 9:30 to 10:45, and then my next class isn't until 2 o'clock. So me, because I don't own a car yet, I'm sitting on campus for a couple hours before I get to that class. You make your own schedule even as far as the time goes. Now, you also asked how many units you can take. That depends. There's a unit limit usually as to how many you can have. For most people, it's 13. If you're a graduating senior, you can take up to 18 eventually. I'm a little bit fuzzy on the dates of when, but
You have permission.
yeah, if you have permission. Basically, there's like a unit limit that gets a little bit higher as time goes on, as more people have enrolled. But you can take as many classes within that unit limit as you feel you can take, as you feel you can actually do. So, 12 units is the full-time mark, which may be important for certain insurance plans or financial aid plans, but you don't necessarily have to take 12 units, and you would be part-time at that point. And studying varies. Like, I know that I did not spend as much studying for math classes as I did for, say, a history class, because math, for me at least, is just practice and application. So really, it varies depending on the class.
Did you have a question?
Like you said, like I'm interested in studying anthropology, and you mentioned that you switched your major. But you said you took English, and it was like much more different. Why did you switch your major?
I switched my major because I'm going to say this. I don't like the anthropology program at CSUN. It's a physical anthropology program, not a cultural. Do you know the difference? Just for those of you who don't, cultural anthropology is more so the study of what different people do. Physical anthropology is like the study of our physical ancestors, like not primates, but like Australopithecus and those kind of names. You probably haven't heard of them. But the difference is study of physical attributes of the ancestors. Anyway, I switched because it was mostly a physical anthropology program. And I also discovered that anthropology seems like a very lonely field. It's very individualized. You spend a lot of your time doing your own work by yourself, publishing your papers, reading other people's published papers. And it's competitive. I wanted something that had more of a, you work with people rather than by yourself against people. That's how I felt about anthropology.
What was the biggest shock? High school to college. What was like the one biggest thing you had to make an adjustment for?
I mean, for me, it was actually taking my schedule into my own hands. I mean, I had to graduate later, so that affected me tremendously. So anyone that I meet, I tell them that.
I don't know. I have to think about that. Biggest shock. I really don't know off the top of my head. Scheduling, to an extent, I guess, I'm getting text messages. I guess a big shock is food. Buying your food. Hear me out now. You don't just have one cafeteria. You have all these places around campus, and your lunch hour is when you make it. And it gets very expensive depending on what you buy. If you go to Chipotle right by campus, that can run you $7 for a burrito. Now, there's also a Burger King on campus, which you can get a hamburger and a drink for $2. So, but you're also trying to think about your health too. So I mean, really,
So you're talking about what it used to be the freshman 10, then it became the freshman 15.
now it's like the freshman 50.
So people tend to gain weight because they have more access to junk food.
More access to junk food. There are vending machines all over campus.
It's true, students, by the way. You'll come back next year to see me and you'll be fatter.
Great influence.
And
And
also, so you're saying you burn through money pretty fast.
oh yeah, yeah.
Because you know, here at Monroe, lunch is free.
You guys have it so lucky.
It's not good.
Hey, you know what? Free lunch is free lunch. Don't knock it. Really.
You haven't tasted it.
Yeah.
I haven't tasted the food, but a free lunch is a free lunch. And another thing, speaking of cell phones, because that just went off, you probably aren't allowed to have cell phones, really, right? A school-wide policy?
Yeah, but we have them anyways.
I know that.
They can have them, but they're not supposed to be on ring.
You can have them. In fact, if you tell your professor beforehand, I'm expecting a very important call, you can sit right by the door and leave the classroom for this important
By the
call.
way, do your professors allow you to take notes on a laptop in class or a pad?
I mean, it depends, but lately, most professors, they just don't see a need for it, especially because most people are on Facebook. So.
So they say no laptops?
They're starting to say that
Yeah.
now. Unless you sit in the front row where they can peek at what you're doing.
Can you like record the professor?
If you get their permission.
Oh. You guys said you don't live on campus. Do you? Like I talked to some teachers here, and they'll always like advise me to like go away from home and get the experience. Do you like regret not going away, or do you think it doesn't make a difference?
I mean, for me, honestly, like, it was the money. My parents didn't have the money to send me away, or I didn't want to take out loans personally, but if I could have, then I would have. Like, I just think that's a whole different experience that I would have learned.
It also depends on who you are. I mean, I know for me, there's no way I'd be ready to go away from home now. I'm just like a complete mama's boy. You can ask her. There's no way I'm ready. It
You don't
really,
have to admit everything.
I know, but I'm honest to a fault. What can I say? Basically, it depends on how ready you are. If you are,
He does his own laundry,
Oh.
That's a start.
thank you. I'm glad you approve. Basically, it depends on how ready you think you are. If you think you are emotionally and psychologically ready to support yourself and live on your own, then yeah, you can go away from home. I mean, it really depends on the experience that you want. If you want that different sense of individuality. My cousin right now is doing a semester abroad, so that's really going out on your own. She's in England.
How do you guys pay for college?
Well, I know for me, like, it sucks because with financial aid, like, there's a huge, like, gap. And, like, my parents, they're supposedly in that middle gap, so they make too much for me to get financial aid, but it's really not a lot. So, and in community college, what helped me the most is there's a thing called the BOG, and it's the Governor's something waiver, and that, a lot of people don't know about it, but that will pay for all of your classes if you qualify, and most people do qualify. The only thing that you have to pay after that is like taxes and stuff.
What is it called
The BOG,
again? BOG?
yeah. And then other than that, you can try to apply for like scholarships and grants.
There are a lot of websites that offer that.
Yeah.
You can go on the campus website and see what's there. You can also go on something called fastweb.com. Write that down, it's very useful. For me, I I don't pay. I accrue debt. I have,
Mommy doesn't know.
yeah, I don't pay. I accrue debt. I have loans up to wazoo. I'm probably about $21,000 in debt right now, and I'm going to be paying that off once I get out. That's how I'm paying for college.
How they study abroad?
Do you know how they study abroad?
CSUN, I think, does have a study.
Yeah. You just like you sign up and it's like you have to pay a like a fee or whatever, and then you stay with like a family over there, or sometimes you stay like in the apartments, but usually it's with a host, and you're either there for like a semester or a summer
Or you.
or a year.
Zachary's cousin Sarah is staying in a dorm. It's connected to a college in England, and of course she's taking classes and earning units toward her degree. So this is a semester abroad program offered through Occidental College, and she could have applied for various countries. She wanted to go somewhere where she wouldn't have a language barrier. So, but the first semester she applied, she was not approved. She reapplied and she got approved the second time.
Yeah, there is an application
Yeah,
process.
not everybody gets to study abroad, and as soon as you get to your college, if that's something you want to do, Josh, you have to right away find out, you know, how soon can I apply for study abroad? What do I have to do in order to be selected?
Yeah.
Not everybody gets selected.
Yeah, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Ask questions you have. Try to find the people to talk to when you're trying to find something out. Go to offices. Email people relentlessly. Make them dislike you if you have to. Look online. If you need to find out something, find it out sooner rather than later. I made the mistake of waiting later, and it's not fun to fix it.
And also for paying for college, there are programs at every school. Like right now, for one of my public relations classes, we have our client is CSUN Stars Online, and it's an application that finds you scholarships. And like you'd be really surprised of how easy it is to get a scholarship. Right now, we have a big one that is offering for freshmen $7,000 for 4 years. For each year, you're gonna get $7,000, and we had a deadline, and we were gonna give that away to 30 students, and we only had 2 students apply.
Oh, wow.
So like,
Did those 2 students get the rest of the scholarship, or what?
well, they did actually decided to extend it, but what I'm saying is like I know like a lot of people will get they see that you have to write an essay or something, and they get discouraged, or they say I'm not gonna win this, but really, you should just apply because it's easier than you think.
Yeah, there might only be 2 other people in the competition for 30.
And I concur that don't assume that a lot of people are applying for a particular scholarship. Many of them aren't. I know when I was doing my credential program at CSUN, I walked into the financial aid office and I said, I'd like to find out if I qualified for any scholarships, and they handed me at that point in time a big 3-ring binder and said, go ahead and look through there.
Now it's on a
Things weren't
webpage.
online yet. So I sat there turning pages, and then there was a page, it was called the Paul Douglas Scholarship. And I read it and I said, hey, this sounds like I would qualify for that. And I applied and I got it, and it was just $5,000 that helped me pay for that year. I didn't need to pay it back. It wasn't even that difficult. You know, I noticed that, hey, I kind of fit the requirements here. I submitted my application and I got it. So I think that Vanessa's correct. A lot of people, they just think, oh, there's going to be so many applicants, I won't get chosen. That's not true.
And also, like, this website, CSUN Stars Online, like she said, she had to go through a book and see what she qualified for. This website pretty much is so simple. You just sign up for it. They ask you a few questions, and then at the end, they tell you everything that you qualify for.
CSUN Stars Online?
Yes. And we also have a Twitter, and right now what we're doing is for every 100 followers that we get, we're doing a raffle, and we're going to have like 10 candidates win a $1,000 scholarship.
This is only for season.
For season freshmen.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're gonna go to CSUN or whatever school, they all have something like that.
You can look it up online. You can look up you can, first of all, you can look through the federal.
Don't pay any money.
Don't pay any money, yeah.
Some of these websites are rip-offs, and they say you have to pay them money up front, and then they will help you find scholarships. You have to pay them money, don't use it.
Yeah. But a good place to look for these are like, you can start with the federal student aid website itself, the FAFSA.
And fastweb.com, I think, is
Yeah.
a really good one.
So I mean, any college has scholarships that are applicable to it. You just have to find them.
Any other questions?
If you're missing a class that you're required to take, could you make it up within that time, or would that like determine that you're going to be graduating a year later or a
Are
semester
you
later?
asking if you're missing the entire class or miss a class session? What are you asking?
It means if you're missing a course that you need.
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
if you're missing a course, okay.
Yeah, like I said earlier, in community college, I had to graduate a whole year later, and that actually happened to me again at CSUN because I transferred from Cal Poly Pomona, and Cal Poly Pomona it's quarters, and at CSUN it's semester, so it didn't transfer accurately, and so there was like 1 or 2 classes that I had to take, and I was supposed to graduate last June, but here I am in December.
What do you prefer, the quarter system or the semester system, and what are the differences?
The quarter semester is 10 weeks, and semester is 18.
Yeah, which do you like more?
Honestly, I like the quarter because I just like how fast it was, and with the quarter, we were able to. Well, CSUN has winter too, right?
I haven't done any winter sessions though.
I don't know. I just like getting it over with.
Yeah, but I actually have done some investigation in the winter because I thought I had to take another class, so I don't. None of the courses are actually like CSUN courses. It's really weird. The winter session is like courses for something else. I didn't quite understand it, but apparently they're not courses from CSUN.
It's an extension.
Yeah.
Some of the deadlines for like colleges, they're like November 30th for the fall semester next year. What if you missed that? Like you said, there was a winter session, so can you just like not have the fall semester and then go to the winter?
Yeah, what you could do is you could not apply for fall and then apply for spring, but I don't recommend it. And I mean, I don't, but you could do that.
Or like what if you did like what she said that you take some classes at community college to make it cheaper? So what if you did those you started those classes like say in the fall and then you start your
Yeah, that's smart because like universities are definitely more strict when it comes to that deadline, but usually the community college aren't. So that's one way so you don't waste time.
Yeah, and you can even start just full-time at a community college too. You don't necessarily have to do both. You can do the 2-year plan. They have 2-year transfer plans. You can spend 2 years at a community college fulfilling your GEs and then transfer over to a 4-year university.
You've got to be careful, Brianna, because I'm not sure that CSUN is permitting freshman admissions for spring semester.
Yeah.
They typically will take junior transfers and sometimes not even that. So you have to find out what the particular campus policy is.
And in fact, I don't know, are they doing another freeze on enrollment?
They lifted it.
They lifted it?
Everywhere you got them programs.
No, you don't. Actually, in most classes, you're responsible to calculate your own grade, and if you have any questions for the teachers, then that's on you, and you're just gonna get a grade at the end. Sometimes, like I said on Moodle, they'll have your grades up there, so it'll be easier to calculate. But like it's pretty much on you to figure out what you have in that class.
Most of the time they don't. They usually don't keep up with the grades throughout the semester on Moodle. So they aren't, either they're not accurate or up to date, or they just aren't there at all usually.
So basically, you finish a course, right? You've taken the final, and then how long is it before you can find out your grade in the course?
Like a week.
And you just go online and you find your grade. They don't
Yeah.
mail it to you or anything.
Yeah, you aren't getting progress reports. You don't get that.
You're done with them.
Yeah, you don't get progress reports. If you want to know your progress, you have to work that out with the teacher themselves.
So if you fail a class, you have to retake it and pay the class again.
Yep. And then you get, and those count as units, right?
Yeah, and it messes up your GPA.
Yeah.
And the fail doesn't go away.
No.
It's on your college transcript forever. And I will tell you now, there are a lot of things in life that they require you to submit a college transcript. And so those fails, those Ds, those incompletes, they're gonna be on that transcript for your employer to see, for the graduate school that you're applying to see, for a lot of different things that you wanna do later in life. That transcript haunts you. You can't, like in high school, if you fail a course and you retake the course,
Replace the grade, right?
it erases the
Yeah,
fail.
replaces it.
Not in college.
You just happen to fulfill the requirement and you still have those units there.
I'll give you an example, because I went back to CSUN after I finished UCLA. 12 years later, right? So I get my transcript from UCLA, and there were 2 classes that I did not finish at UCLA. I had incompletes in both those classes. And I sat down with the CSUN counselor. What's the first question he asked? Why did you have incompletes in those 2 courses? And I had to explain myself, you know. So, just be aware of that. And by the way, an incomplete, after a semester, it turns into a fail.
It doesn't. I don't really know.
Well, an incomplete means you didn't finish the
You like
course.
withdrew or
You
something.
didn't, no, you didn't show up for the final, or you
Oh,
didn't turn in
okay.
a project. And that's what I'm saying, if you don't complete the course, I think within a year's time or something, it turns into a fail.
I would have to investigate myself, but it,
I withdrew from the university at UCLA, I never got a bachelor's from them. I had 10 units left, and then I withdrew, so my incompletes just still shows incompletes. They didn't turn into fails because I withdrew from the university.
Question?
Oh, so if you like start a class and then you drop it, it shows like.
Oh yeah.
not necessarily. Well, go.
Oh, like if you don't drop it in time, then it turns into a W, and a W it will also hurt your GPA.
There's usually a drop deadline and a deadline too to return the books. It's usually before the drop deadline, to the bookstore if you buy them from there. But yeah, there's a deadline for
But
dropping
if you
books.
drop the class, you don't get all of the money back.
Oh no, there's no refund.
Well, I think you get a prorated amount back if you drop it by a certain date.
Yeah. But you don't get all the money back.
All right, why don't you hand out your evaluations
Yeah.
and give them a few minutes to fill this out.
So we just have a little bit of an evaluation for you guys. Tell us how we did. Do you guys have any suggestions?
You want to thank them?
Thank you.
How about a round of applause?